Hello, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time, and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through this call. Bottom line, the information we have for you. We know you're busy people and you have other things to do. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a standard format we use here. We'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about the revaluation of the dinar and these other pre-valued currencies. A few minutes talking about the program we've put into place to assist you, and then we go to the brief Q&A thereafter. So let's go ahead and get started. We'd like to talk about the situation as it exists today in Iraq. We view the Iraqi dinar as the base currency for the reset and revaluation of some of these other currencies. So let's go ahead and get started. First, by way of a disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of these currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. And the first irrelevant issue would be the potential window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. It's been pretty much unchanged for the last couple of weeks. We have a rather large window we're looking at here. Potentially within the next 60 to 90 days, we could see a reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, but for technical reasons that I'm going to explain in just a moment, this could get pushed all the way to January of 2020. I know that that is not good news for a lot of people, but for those of us that have been involved with these currencies for a number of years, we're looking at a window that extends out as far as 7 months. I'm, as much as anybody, want this to be over and to move on to do other much more interesting things, but 7 months is not a long period of time if you step back and look at the totality of what's been going on since roughly 2003. Now, why are we looking at a best-case scenario of 60 to 90 days and a worst-case scenario of January 2020? Well, for a number of reasons. One of them has to do with the fact that Iraq has not been able to form their new government, and the formation of the new government was a necessity in order for there to be a reinstitution of their currency. The other issue had to do with legitimate concerns that the United States government had about undue Iranian influence in country. So because of those delays, the CBI was forced to make payments of salaries and expenditures for the first month at the 1180 dinar rate, and of course that completely distorts the budget that was passed for 2019. Now, ordinarily, this would mean that the reinstitution would have to be postponed until the passage of the 2020 budget in January of next year. However, if the government is successful in the formation of the government and the confirmation for the 4 remaining ministerial seats, education, justice, defense, and interior, then there is the distinct possibility that the government, in cooperation with the CBI, might attempt the rather arduous process of rewriting the 2019 budget to reflect the new rate when they reinstitute the currency. It's not a probability, but it is a distinct possibility. If that were to occur, then we're looking on the upside of a reinstitution in the next 60 to 90 days. But again, worst case scenario, which in the long term is good news, is that the reinstitution would occur no later than January of 2020. Now, that also will allow many individuals to get their affairs in order prior to this revaluation. Most people are not even aware of the things that they need to do in order to protect this newfound wealth. And this is why Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phase program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is, again, the establishment of your package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your pre-RV currencies to that trust package. There are a number of vehicles out there that can provide privacy and asset protection, but they vary in the degree of asset protection that they provide. For example, individuals can establish limited liability companies or sub-S corporations. Now, these are good and valuable business structures, but the best that they can do is segregate your business interests from your personal interests. LLC specifically means limited liability company. The other problem with these entities is that courts have ruled that if an LLC or a sub-S corporation is owned in the majority by one person or a closely held group like a family, then those entities can be pierced for civil litigation. So that's going to be an inappropriate entity to be used for the purposes here. Second would be single trusts. That's establishing a trust, like a revocable trust, where all of your assets remain in that one trust. Now, if you have if you have a revocable trust, you have successfully exempted your estate from probate. But a revocable trust does not provide any privacy or asset protection. So again, that's going to be an inappropriate vehicle. Now, there are some individual irrevocable trusts out there that unfortunately some people are using. One is called the pure trust. There's the constitutional trust, the non-grantor trusts. Those trusts have all been flagged by the IRS, so those are trusts that are going to be inappropriate for your needs. Lastly, there are legitimate irrevocable trusts out there. But if they are a single trust and not a package like ours, that means that all of your assets are housed within one single legal entity. That also means that if any entity within that trust is involved in civil litigation, you have dragged all of the other assets into that litigation as well because they're all owned by the same entity. That is why Trusts Unlimited has created a package of trusts. And I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail why a package of trusts provides the best privacy and asset protection available in the United States of America. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why it's necessary to establish this package of asset protection trusts prior to the revaluation of these currencies. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because the assets within our trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will be able to successfully avoid IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will probably spit out an audit, and with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit will be time-consuming, it will be frustrating, and frankly, it would probably cost you more than an asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your asset protection trust package is in place and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package pre-RV, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an audit if this revaluation were to occur within a trust, an irrevocable trust. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because included in the package is a special gift subtrust that we have created. So if you are hesitant for any reason to give friends and family the lump sum from this exchange, you can protect their wealth by utilizing this gift trust package. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to give currencies to family and friends prior to their revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currencies to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange, that can be done outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But again, if you're hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, then you can gift to them through this gift subtrust. By gifting through this subtrust, their currencies and their USD will be protected along with yours. This subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning that you can give these individuals the exact dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But again, because you're gifting through this gift subtrust, you will be able to directly manage, invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you two quick scenarios. Scenario number one, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs in a state of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax, the tax that the federal government would assess in order for you to transfer that estate to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. There's a better approach. Scenario number two, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. And the day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that same estate of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits, one pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to successfully circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for the value of property that you own directly in direct title, or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust package is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. Second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the property at the time you transferred it to our trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit, because there will be no civil award to win from a successful lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, and this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this important from a legal standpoint and from an asset protection standpoint? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, understandably, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole, and all of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Now, this is very important from an asset protection perspective. Why are those other assets safely protected in the other subtrusts? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would therefore have no standing to pursue those separate legal entities. So this trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, again, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your asset protection trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held approximately 30 days after the revaluation of these currencies, which seminar is to be held in Disney World, Florida. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trusts post-RV. Many of our clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even some of the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is from the direct transfer of funds from your pre-RV asset protection trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there to assist you. Our offshore specialist will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We will also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you want to get money out of the banks and it work in other markets as quickly as possible. Lastly, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth in tangible assets to avoid that volatility. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master or asset management trust, which will hold your assigned pre-RV currencies, and then post-RV hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts, one gift subtrust, which is an optional trust, which can at any time be converted to a standard subtrust, and 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to work with denarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for many, and so by restructuring the package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are a number of ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their affairs in order and their trust in place pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be less than the $100 a month you would pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons that I've stated here. We're going to go to a Q&A in just a moment. Before we do, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to the call. And again, for our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself have degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have 78 years' experience working precisely in these areas, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so, they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through family and friends things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are, of course, investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now, today, in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, thanks for listening to the call. We're going to go to the Q&A in a moment. If the things I've discussed here today are of interest, I suggest you contact us and get our initial package. You're under absolutely no obligation by getting this package, even though it does include everything you need if you should decide to proceed and establish a asset protection trust. You're free to review the information. Contact us either by phone or email if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer whatever questions you may have, and there will be no consultation fee. Again, we're doing everything we can to help you make an informed decision prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons that I've stated here. Now, when I open the Q&A, I'll have a pen and paper ready if you'd like our contact information. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. Existing clients can contact us directly if they have a question about their trust package. And for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open up now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give our newer callers our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD Calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing a 4, you'll dial a 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-POUND. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but after the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies, emails may go out as often as daily. So let's go and see if we have anyone in the queue here. We have a caller here. Our first caller is from area code 713. That's 713. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, this is Joe in Texas. I just wanted to ask if you had, like, say, 8 million dinar, could you put, like, 4 in the main trust and then put 4 in the one of the sub-trusts?
Well, the way you accomplish utilizing the sub-trust is first they must go to the master trust, because the only trust that can transfer to other trusts is the master trust. Now,
well, what I'm trying to do is keep it from being over $5,000 in value, in case someone wanted to sue.
Over 5,000, or I'm not.
Well, okay. Well, what I'm trying to say is, you said that if you had $5,000 in dinar, then you put it into the trust, and then if someone sued you, then they would only get the $5,000. Well, how do you do that if you have more than? Okay.
Oh, let me explain. They can only sue you for what the currency was worth when you transferred it. It's irrelevant what it's worth after the RV. The only relevant issue is what it was worth when you transferred it to the trust.
Well, I know people that's got $20,000 worth of dinar, and, I mean, what do you do then?
I don't care how much they have. They can only sue for what the currency is worth when they transfer it to the trust. It's irrelevant what it's worth later, okay?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye. Okay, our next question is from area code 954. That's 954. Go ahead. 954, are you there? Well, that caller dropped for some reason. I assume that they had the same question, and that is our only caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the call. I hope it was informative for those of you calling in for the first time. For those of you that have called in regularly, and particularly those of you that have had currencies for a long period of time, I know it's a little disheartening that we have these continued postponements, and this is just my personal opinion, I see no way this can go beyond January of 2020. And as a matter of fact, I do think that there will be an attempt to rewrite and restructure the 2019 budget in order to get this done prior to January. But for those of you like myself that have had a substantial amount of currency for a rather long period of time, 7 months is not the end of the world. So, live your life, be happy with the knowledge that this is going to happen, because it has to happen. The nation state of Iraq has survived the removal of Saddam Hussein, has survived interference from Iran. The new government is about to be formed, and when that happens, Iraq will have to have an international currency, which means they're going to have to reinstitute and then revalue their currency globally. So that's good news. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we will try to get out an emergency email and, if necessary, schedule an emergency conference call. Failing that, we will be back next Wednesday afternoon, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello? I'm not sure. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me.